So everybody, I want to talk about the thing that's really, really going on in our country. Everything that we're being diverted from in terms of headlines, both from the front and from the back, avoids the underlying, major thing wrong in our country. And it was set up many, many, many decades ago. As of March 2012, out of the 2 billion and 27 acres and 9.18 million acre hectares, whatever that means, 28% of the total owned by federal government. Now this map right here is a map of where everything's red. It's what the federal government owns. And that is extremely, extremely frightening. We know what kind of crimes happen inside federal property and that they're not protected and that they're sacred, and they call it, for the animals and for nature, when actually incredibly sinister things happen inside of all of this. And it has been unbeknownst to us and very secret. And this is where they put things like FEMA camps and where they put those temples and those mosques that have the hidden territory, and they're still here. There's also somewhere in here the place where Edward Snowden ended up telling everybody that the government was using a whole piece of property to spy on everybody and store all the data. And it's very, very large, many acres large, and employs a bunch of people. And it's located where all of this is red. And while we think we're having everything else matter, what really matters is that the federal government is still trying to own and control us and take whatever they have and make it work against us. And they have been trying to destroy and pollute the earth and the world and this country for decades and centuries. But now they've made it even worse. They're insane. And I have my own version about the things like the fires they cause and the earthquakes and the fact that they don't want people to rebuild, and that they're trying to use these places out here for those self-serving cities, and they want people to have self-driving cars. So when You Are Free TV was talking, I watched her last video, she's talking about 5G and microwave towers and infrastructure. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to put all these kinds of things everywhere that endanger all of us and destroy our air, our land, our water, and our food. And until you see this map and how crazy it is of the things that they own, you don't even have a sense of it. Now, this is another map that's just showing it in different colors. It's still the same United States, but it breaks down over here what agencies control the land. So the Bureau of Land Management owns almost 250 million acres. Then the Forest Service, and that's protected wood that we can't use to burn, or we can't use it to help ourselves. They protect and preserve it, whatever. Fish and Wildlife, same thing. And then the national parks. But in the Bureau of Land Management, everybody, we don't even know what goes on there, and they're paid for whatever they do out of our federal budget. And they are, you've got to read all of this stuff about it, because they're not supposed to own any land. We're supposed to be able to buy and access land. And you even have federal government trying to take lands unlawfully, sometimes from people in terms of taking it back by the bank. And then the state owns it and takes it away from somebody who fails on something. And sometimes they don't even resell it and put it back into the hands of people that could still live somewhere when someone's fallen on hard times. And we have people trying very, very hard to just destroy from all corners. And when you look at it at the whole map, when I was in the middle of the election, people were sending me little memes per state, like say, this state or this state. They would give me how much of it was government owned and how much of it was people owned, and then what the destructive things were on there. And at one point they showed me, like, from this coast to this coast, all kinds of those places where terrorists are housed and trained right inside the United States. So the reason everyone has to wake up is because what they're trying to do to us by wearing us out and not fixing social media is make everybody so tired that we don't focus on what they're doing still. And they're everybody, when you have a country like Germany, who's a dictatorship, trying to say that Facebook's illegal and then demanding that it change, but no one in the United States, which had the internet first, trying to fix anything, you have to ask yourself why. And the reason is if we're all spinning on social media and they're keeping the evil and keeping the guy that maybe did the shooting, if that was even real news, all us in the front, is because all this sinister stuff is happening in the back. And the United States, if we're supposed to be constitutional and so powerful, why aren't we giving internet the rules? And I can tell you from having filed my lawsuit, they're not trying to fix anything. There isn't one person from the Department of Justice that's trying to straighten out and instill rules on the internet. And while they needed to use it in the election, and while they needed to use it, and stay on it, even though it was toxic and whatever, now we're about ready to get to another election. Do you see the DOJ filing anything so that we protect the next election? Do you see anything where they're fixing all the internet crimes, the cyber crimes, and the harassment and bullying? You don't. In fact, the girl B, who was on Twitter and put the most posts out that were all the arrests from the Department of Justice, they just shut her account down so that we don't get the information of who they're locking up. And so we don't have a constitution in play, everybody, even though they're trying. And the sick people that are still, damaged and king and queen in the pedophile ring, they're still running the government under the president and out of the Constitution. And the bigger agenda is what they're doing here with all the 50 states and everything that they're doing behind the scenes, which is why they don't want to fix that and why they want us just spinning our heads. And it's so disgusting. And when I saw that they didn't free Julian, and then all these other things added up when I took the day off, because I was still watching videos when I was crying in my bed and saying, oh my God, why is everybody sick and archaic and whatever? Because I can't handle all that cruelty. I just put everything together. Plus I listened to the You Are Free TV, and she's 1,000% correct. Now, we all can only put a certain percentage of ourselves into trying to fix things and straighten things, but we are the majority and we are the voice, and we are in power. But they are in sick power, where if you disagree with the agenda, they threaten to shut down your channel or shut you down or even erase you. But that's why each one of us has to make a little difference. And what I want to have people stop doing is focusing on every bread, cue, crumb, and every little thing, because the bigger thing that I'm seeing is that they're trying to silence us, and they're still doing disgusting things behind the scenes. And they want us to be focusing on wherever they send us. So they send us to Florida, they send us to the Julian thing, they send us here, they send us there. But in the meantime, only a portion of things are getting corrected under Trump, because the dirty, sick people under government are still there and they're not drained yet. And also, they're in power and new ones want to come in. And everybody, unless we completely get every mean, cruel, selfish person out of our government, out of Senate, out of Congress, there's always going to be somebody that's a seed of destruction that's part of all of this. And they're always going to try to plant somebody new in and make sure that it's that way. So we have to pay attention. Now, there's 2 days worth of headlines on my blog that are out of, it's there. You need to go watch and see all of them. And I couldn't get to them because I've been doing this and I had something personal have to deal with. But everybody, it's up to all of us to stay wide awake and to not just spin our wagons doing what they want us to do, but to understand, what are they hiding? They are always hiding something when they send us somewhere else. And all of the things where they're sending us may or may not actually be real. They may only be partially true. And then they're trying to divert our attention and our energy and our empathy so that we don't know how to fix this. Now, one other thing, I tuned into True Lies. I just adore him. And he had a live stream with other people in a room with him, and then all of us commenting on the YouTube end. And the one, it's hard to do a multi interview, everybody, because people aren't seeing each other. So you don't know when somebody's talking. You think we're all in the same room. It isn't like that. You call in to the show, but you don't necessarily see each other. So it's a little tricky until you get it to a science. But he did extremely well. There were so many good points of view brought out on that. And what people need to pay attention to is not only is that growing, every single person is awake, wide awake, and we care, and we are fighting for this, and they can't beat it with a stick. But we're fighting against true evil. And we have to move forward. Once we get our answers of where we're at, we need to move forward and not let them have us stay stuck on a story, because what they're doing is something sinister behind it, while they bank on us being stuck on something. And that's what's maddening. I absolutely don't even want to go into what I think happened in Florida and whatever, because I know that behind the scenes, they're doing other things that are sick and disgusting while they want us all to focus on that. But all that news is on my blog, and you should watch both days and check the links out and educate yourselves, because there's nobody that can catch up with this kind of news. Thank you.